Hey, good Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday. I hope your week is going well so far. We've got a lot to talk about once again today, including that tornado risk that Beryl is producing across the Midwest today. You know, we saw a round of tornadoes yesterday, that outbreak anywhere from Texas to Louisiana, all the way up to Arkansas. Now we're also tracking another round of storms to the northeast for tomorrow. And then of course we'll have a check on the tropics. You know, that's been a really big topic of discussion is the tropical activity. How soon could we see the next storm? So we'll take a look at the tropics and see if there's anything in our forecast. But let's take a look at what we saw yesterday first. So yesterday we saw some high winds up to the north. We saw that tornado outbreak down to the south. We also saw some decent hail, but it was very, very isolated yesterday. The hail that we saw was anywhere from areas of St. Louis all the way to Memphis. Now take a look at this tornado outbreak. Holy moly. I mean, this was going on all day yesterday from the late morning, early afternoon hours all the way into the evening. These storms went from eastern Texas all the way up to Little Rock. It felt like there were warnings after warnings after warnings coming out of the outer bands of Beryl here as it made landfall yesterday as a Category 1 hurricane, quickly de-escalating into a tropical storm and then moving up to the north and east into Arkansas, producing several rounds of tornadoes there. Not much in the form of hail yesterday. It's really, really difficult to get hail out of these warm core storms, you know, that coming off the tropics. You've got a layer of moisture producing a lot of those storms, but that's a very, very warm layer of moisture, and you need cold air to get hail. Either way, what we're talking about and looking at today for storm reports are pretty minimal. We've got some storms up in Arkansas, moving to the north into the Midwest, and that's our next round of storms that we're tracking today. So your current conditions, rain, nothing severe that I've seen so far, anywhere from St. Louis all the way out to Chicago. We have scattered showers and storms down to the southeast and into the Gulf, even some scattered showers all the way up the East Coast here. Looking out to the west, very, very dry, where we're seeing some very warm temperatures out in the western portion of the states today. Let's take a look at those temperatures for you. Actually, temperatures, as always, I mean, we talk about this every single day, looking really, really hot in Las Vegas, a little bit nicer here in Oklahoma City. However, we could see the difference. You know, whenever I went out to walk my dog this morning, I could feel the difference immediately. Whenever I walked outside, the sun was out. It was much hotter and much more humid here in Oklahoma City than what we felt yesterday. And I'm sure a lot of that is all of this moisture that the Gulf is bringing up from hurricane or now post-tropical cyclone Beryl. And that is bringing some moisture into some of these areas, and it's making it feel very, very humid. So make sure that you drink tons of water here in the southern plains and of course throughout the Midwest today, because that humidity will dehydrate you very quickly. Other temperatures across the state for your lunchtime here, or across the country for your lunchtime. We've got 80 degrees in Billings, 89 in Boise, 69 degrees out in Los Angeles. As we take a look at what we're expecting for the rest of the day here, we are watching for storms to once again potentially produce a tornado outbreak again today, second day in a row here. So what we're watching for here are areas anywhere from Cincinnati all the way down just north of Memphis. It's right along that Kentucky state line into Ohio, into portions of the Midwest here. So what we're watching for are anything, so you've got this big cluster of storms, right, from St. Louis up to the Great Lakes. Look just south of that. That is where some of the best potential for that tornado outbreak will be. We're looking for isolated storms here to produce anything that rotates could produce those tornadoes. So let's take a look at the risk here as this moves up to the north, Cincinnati, maybe even making it into Cleveland and places like Buffalo for tomorrow. We've got lots of instability. Again, I mentioned it's right along that line from the Kentucky state line all the way up to Ohio and then into the Midwest. Or for a good portion of the Midwest. The tornado forecast for today looks a little bit more promising for places like Cincinnati, Louisville, Indianapolis. If you head farther to the south, I think these storms will be very isolated. You still have a tornado risk in this area, but they will be pretty isolated anywhere from St. Louis, Paducah, and Nashville. The significant hail model here does not look very promising for today. We do have a few areas that I'll watch for some very small hail. However, again, with these warm core storms, it's very, very difficult to get hail out of these storms. So taking a look at that hail risk for today, your forecast shows two different areas of potential hail. We're looking out to the north and east. We're also looking down into those areas that we could see a few supercells produce some very minor hail. I'm keeping the risk level low, and I'm also keeping those hail sizes very low, anywhere from a quarter to maybe a bit larger than that. Heading farther up to the north and east, we will have storms that could produce or have a better chance of producing hail, still looking pretty small here. Your maximum hail size for today could get up to ping pong ball sized hail. I'm looking at the potential for ping pong ball sized hail just because we did see several areas yesterday that did produce ping pong ball sized hail. Other than that, I think it'll be much smaller, quarter or smaller there. Okay, taking a look at Wednesday, it's crazy we're getting right into the middle of the work week now. It's just flying by. We can see still the impacts of Beryl going up to the northeast. So we'll be in northeastern US all the way up to Canada, anywhere from Toronto to Boston, looking at some of the strongest storms for tomorrow. But you could see showers and storms all the way back to the west into places like Iowa, and then all the way down the east coast, all the way to Florida. It could be getting rain for your Wednesday. So whenever you walk out the door tomorrow evening for dinner time, it may be pretty wet out there. Don't forget that umbrella. Okay, taking a look at the hail forecast for tomorrow. Again, I mentioned some of those storms in Iowa, pretty isolated, and then we've got another round of storms off to the east. Let's start in Des Moines, where I do have that risk pretty low. And then we can head farther off to the east in places like Syracuse, also a pretty low risk here, or just to the south of Syracuse here. You also have a pretty low risk for storms. Again, very, very small hail produced out of this, anywhere from an inch to maybe just a tiny bit larger than the size of a quarter. All right, taking a look at what to expect as we head into the rest of the week here, and a look back on Beryl. So I know that Beryl has been a very big topic of discussion over the last few weeks. Right now, it's post-tropical cyclone Beryl. But over the last few weeks, this storm really broke some records here. We can take a look at some of those records. It developed farther off to the east than any other tropical cyclone in June, which is very impressive here. And we've been watching this for quite some time. It quickly developed into a Category 4 hurricane, making its first landfall in Grenada on the Windward Islands. It also broke several records, including being the strongest hurricane in June and the earliest Category 5 hurricane on record. This continued to make another landfall as a Category 2 hurricane in Tulum, and then once again got back out onto the Gulf waters and was a Category 1 hurricane as it made its third landfall on Matagorda, Texas, just to the south of Houston by about an hour and a half. Then, of course, we talked about that severe weather outbreak that it produced through places of eastern Texas, Louisiana, and into Arkansas. Now that post-tropical cyclone is tracking up to the north and east, expecting to bring those storms that we just talked about out to the northeast and portions of Canada for tomorrow. Now, I do want to show you what to expect over the next few weeks here as we are still in that tropical season. We're not even in the peak of it yet. Here's what we're expecting. We don't have any active areas of concern right now. However, the next named storm will be named Debbie. Ernesto also on the board here, Francine, and then of course we'll go down the list as we get farther into the tropical season. It is expected. The National Hurricane Center has said that this is expected to be a pretty active season, as we've already seen Beryl make records here. So we'll have to see what happens over the next few weeks as we continue to be in this tropical season. Now, of course, follow us for more social media. We love to do things on TikTok, Facebook, we're on YouTube and Twitter right now. Instagram, we also post many reels on there and important information, so head over there and follow us. Also, give us a call if you're interested in any of our plans at 855-334-4245. Email us at info@hailtrace.com or head over to our website. Have a fantastic Tuesday. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back here same time, same place tomorrow at noon.